Welcome one, welcome all to the NFC East Mixtape. It's a little bit of an ambush start to the show here. Probably got in before the.
You messed it up, just so you know. You didn't wait. So the podcast, actually, neither the podcast nor the video audience got to hear the beginning. So go if you want to ambush, do it correctly. But the beginning of the beginning of the file was like, what they heard is like, like that's what everybody heard at the very beginning. To be very, I bet Rachel will cut that off the podcast, but we can't cut it off the video. So good job.
It was worth it.
Welcome one and all, and us, I guess, to the NFC East Mixtape. You can listen to the show on any of the four NFC East blog platforms across the SB Nation universe: Blogging the Boys, Bleeding Green Nation, Hogs Haven, and Big Blue View. You can also watch it on the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel or the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. He is Brandon Lee Gowton from BGN. I am RJ Ochoa from BTB, and I clearly upset Brandon on Tuesday with my tweet, which is why he wanted to come in here all ruffled and whatnot. Happy Tuesday to you, BLG. Happy Wednesday to the listeners.
Let's just address the drama. Let's get out in front of it, RJ. Because apparently you have a problem with me having French onion soup, which, by the way, you don't even know what it is still.
Oh, that's the drama you're talking. I was talking about something totally different. Okay.
Oh, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay. We'll get to my thing. Let's do your thing. So let me actually set this up. So a bit of a humble brag. I was on ESPN Radio for the first time ever. Done some hits and things like that in my career, but I'd never been on ESPN Radio. So shout out to Sarah Spain and Jason Fitz who had me on. And I was prepping for this, and I got an Instagram message with a photo. It was a photo of soup. I think was soup. For all I know, it was just like sewage or whatever.
Yeah.
That said BLG is having onion soup, French onion soup. And it's 85 degrees outside. I got a tweet at the same time. There were people there. I have sparrows all over the place, apparently. Dude, what is your problem? Like, what? That's not cool. No pun intended there.
So context included here. It actually was pretty cool last night. It was 75 degrees at the time.
It was 85, according to the tweet. I mean, that's literally what I was told.
The high might have been 85 on Monday when this soup was had. Let's give a shout out, by the way, to the actual location of the place. It's called the New Wave Cafe in Queen Village in Philadelphia. Really good spot. So let's give them credit, first of all. And I got the French onion soup there, RJ, because I've been wanting to get it for some time. But the problem is they have such a good menu with specials that are always differing that I go in like wanting to try that soup, but then there's always this new special, and I feel like I have to get that instead, because if I miss the window on that, then I might not be able to get that, and then the soup I think will be there still. So I had to get the soup. I heard really good things about it on Yelp reviews and everything. It wasn't that hot outside. Certainly wasn't hot inside the restaurant at all. And also people ripping me for wearing a hat in a restaurant. It's like a bar. It's a bar/restaurant. Like, it's not uncouth to wear a hat.
Okay, you should handle the shouting out of your guest. You've shouted out the place and not the person who outed you, by the way. So
I don't know if they want to be doxxed. I don't know if H and E, I will call them, want to be doxxed, but they probably do. So congrats to them. They just got engaged, by the way, RJ. So congrats to them.
Congratulations to them. They're the ones who outed you, to me at least, on multiple social media platforms. This was Twitter and Instagram. So I got a tweet. I think we can out the handles at least. I want out the Instagram handle because that was a private message.
Okay.
But on Twitter, Fleabag, that's Flea with a PH and then an underscore at the end. So in case anybody wants to see this photo, tweeted at me and said, Brandon Lee Gowton is eating French onion soup on an 85-degree day. And so that's one photo of you, by the way. You're wearing the hat in this photo. Interesting way you're holding the spoon, by the way.
It's actually this hat, too, by the way. Well, if you're watching the YouTube version. If you're watching the audio version, then just look at my Twitter. I retweeted the tweet.
Well, so, first of all, I mean, you're a tall person. You've said this many different times. I actually saw one of the replies said, you must have been standing on a chair to get this angle of BLG. But, so you're a tall person, but are you like a giant? Because the spoon looks like teeny in your hand. It looks incredibly small. So that's one thing. It looks great. I mean, and
it's fantastic.
Well, so it looks great. I think it looks great, but I can't tell you because I've never had French onion soup, which I believe is where this all kind of started from. You're coming out here like, oh, the Yelp reviews and whatever. No, BLG. I live in your head rent free because you got this soup because of me. In fact, the private message that I got was different photo. I tweeted the screen grab of this. So if anyone goes and looks at the tweet, they could see that it was a different picture. And the message said, BLG ordered French onion soup because of you.
That was not true. That was in jest. That was said in jest.
I don't think so.
True. I would admit it if it was true. It wasn't. I've been wanting to do this. I said for a long time now, and I finally got around to it, and it was good. And RJ, I need you to try some French onion soup somewhere.
It's too hot. I will try it in the fall, but it's too hot.
I'm not saying now, but I'm saying at some point before the year's out, you have to have it. You have to give us a review. People are dying to hear about it. What was the other thing that you wanted to get to before we actually get into the show?
Well, hang on. The other thing I wanted to say was you got a lot of love for having a PBR. There was a lot of tweets.
Almost too much.
Yeah, it's like, okay. I mean, whatever. No, the thing that I thought you were talking about, and it was so before we started recording, Brandon was messing with his backgrounds on the platform that we use here, and you had the BGN logo. So I thought you were coming in all like Eagles hot, whatever. Like you actually did one time ambush me on Monday Football Monday when you were taking victory laps about the win that the Eagles had over the Cowboys in 2020 when they started Ben DiNucci.
Right.
And so I thought that you were upset because on Tuesday, you may not have seen this. You've obviously had a busy day. You tweeted out that Jalen Hurts was having a lot of success connecting with Dallas Goedert. I quote tweeted that and added 2 photos of Cowboys intercepting Jalen Hurts. And I said, to be fair, though, Jalen has a lot of experience with throwing to Dallas. And
how funny, how creative, how original.
I mean, well, that is like, we need to put all these in a box, right? Like Cowgirls, what was it? Ilgles.
That one is just not even a real thing.
Throwing batteries at Santa, like there's some for every team. Like we should inspire one another to become more creative when insulting each other. You know what I'm saying? That's all. Yeah, that's all. Just I thought it was so dumb at first when the Eagles drafted Dallas Goedert 4 years ago. How like some Cowboys fans in true legitimacy were like, now they're gonna have to say touchdown Dallas. Like I was like, oh, you think that's gonna bother them?
Yeah. Like, oh no, Dallas Goedert scored a touchdown. Our worst nightmare.
Wow, good times. Okay, so the other thing I was gonna say that we started to say before we started recording, last thing as we get our usual like 8 or so minutes of whatever out the way, I was doing something on my iPad, and I've tweeted before something like whatever from my iPad, and I'll always get a response. It's like, Twitter for iPad, huh? Enough with the iPad shaming. I like my iPad. I use it a lot. Like, I don't know why there's this, like,
who's diving so deep into your tweets that they're, like, recognizing the device you're tweeting from.
But why is there, like, a stigmatism with regards to tweeting from an iPad? Like, is it cooler to tweet from your phone? Like, why? Like, I don't understand why the iPad is practical. I have one of those cases that has a keyboard on it. So, like, at night, I'm watching something. The wife and I, I'm handling some chores, paying bills, whoever, whatever.
Right.
Like, let me tweet from my iPad in peace.
If you exclusively tweeted from an iPad, that's probably like psycho behavior. But if you're mixing it in there, I mean, yeah, I don't know who was even noticing that? Who was like looking that up?
Well, it says that. I don't know if you like underneath a tweet, it tells.
Who cares? Like why are you looking Twitter that closely? Who cares?
I'm just saying, like,
get better things to do.
I've seen it happen to other people, which is why I bring it up. Like, I've seen people get like, shamed for tweeting from their iPad before. Like, what's the deal? Like, let us have the iPad, So, okay. Shout out to French Onion Soup and iPads, early winners here on the NFC East Mixtape. This is volume 70, not 69. Nice. Nobody tweeted back and said nice. I was so disappointed.
I think some people did.
By the way,
they did. I tweeted out last week. I tweeted on my own, like a native tweet, like, hey, it's the 69th episode of the mixtape. So some people did respond to that. Anyway, you were saying.
Well, last thing. It appears that most people want to go by the mixologist, not the universe.
It's too long.
So it's
the universe wasn't a real suggestion.
I know it wasn't, but
it was more of a concept.
Well, Noah and Ben Long were at the Eagles preseason game and tagged us on Instagram and referred to themselves as the universe, and so I really liked that. But mixologist seems to be the most popular answer. I don't like that it has it's got an X, like it's a hard, like it's not difficult to say, but it's like mix, like it's an abrasive sound.
I had an idea that I was thinking about, maybe 2 ideas. You know how we do our bit is like, wow, the NFC least, the first person to ever say that. So we could either call our listeners the leasts, or we could call them the beast because, the NFC beast, because it's really good. I don't know. all I've got.
I don't like either of those.
Jimmy, Kemsky used to call his website about the NFC East Blogging the Beast.
Wow, as a node to blog on the boys, interesting.
But then like Good Mythical Morning use Mythical Beast. That's what they call their listeners. So
yeah, I don't like the Beast. I don't like Least. I don't want to insult the listeners, and imply that they're less than. I think we have to listen to them. They said mixologists. We have to go with that. That's what they want.
No.
And so you know what? And their icon can be one of those like martini, like I'm saying, like all the shakers and stuff. Like they're the mixologists. I'm sorry, the people have spoken. This is a democracy.
No.
Just let the records show. I fought for mixologists.
It has to feel right. The vibe isn't right. Anyway, let's get into today's show. What are we talking about?
The French onion soups. So every team in the NFC East has played a preseason game, and I believe only the New York Giants won. We can go in whatever
You're right.
order.
They're going to win the East undefeated.
There's a great, by the way, NFC East subreddit that is just perfect. I can't believe nobody listening has fought for us in the NFC
what the hell
East
is
subreddit.
this all about?
I know. And you know what? Shout out to the NFC East, because I haven't seen a subreddit for any other division. We care the most. That's why the mixtape exists. And the mixologists exist. And you know what? See, like our subject matter is mixology. It all works. Anyway, you want to keep going in divisional order? I feel like we kind of have to. Like those are the rules.
Sure.
So the Dallas Cowboys have several issues here. They went to Denver and had 1 billion penalties. They had the most penalties of any team in the NFL in the first week of the preseason. But it's only preseason, and you're making a big deal out of nothing. All right, it doesn't matter that the Cowboys had the most penalties in the NFL last year. I don't think it totally matters. It's obviously mildly concerning, but to dismiss it and act like it's not concerning at all is lame. I thought that Mike McCarthy had a really poor way of going about this.
Yep.
And I don't have a problem with McCarthy dismissing it, acting like it's not a big deal. I disagree with that, but if you want to do that, I understand that's the role you have to play right now. But he had a specific line in his press conference. He said, you guys are going to write whatever you want. Mike, back off. This is not a media-driven thing. Like, you're the one with all the penalties here, not anybody else. So chill out. So that was a big takeaway. The Cowboys have a super duper terrible tackle situation, Brandon, because they cut Lyle Collins in the offseason. They have Tyron Smith, who's missed time for 6 years in a row. And the only addition they made was a 5th-round draft pick in Matt Waletzko, who got hurt at the very beginning of camp. So who could have possibly foreseen this blowing up in their face? They have a backup quarterback issue. I mean, I think that I've heralded the Eagles for trading for Gardner Minshew. I don't think enough teams, and I know he hasn't played well this year, but
been a little better recently, but yeah.
Yeah, but still, like, I love that idea. Like, it's such a potentially important position. I don't know why some teams don't care at all about it. So that's what's kind of that's the energy surrounding the Cowboys. Anthony Barr seems like he's going to practice for the first time, hopefully against the Chargers, who the Cowboys are scrimmaging with, and then they play on Saturday night. So they're almost back in Dallas. They've been gone for a very long time. But yeah, the vibes are just kind of whatever right now. But that's kind of the preseason mood as a whole.
Imagining like a Cowboys receiver dropping 5 passes in a preseason game and Mike McCarthy being like, well, you're just going to write whatever you want. Like, okay, no, he dropped 5 passes. That's really bad. Like, you can't like sugarcoat that. And so what have I said going into training camp for the Cowboys? I think the number one goal
no bad vibes. No bad stories. Yeah.
And I gave them credit for that last week because I thought they'd done a good job of that for the most part. Then you get this McCarthy thing in there, and it's like, oh, I love that. I'm not saying the preseason is sunk because of that, but it's definitely an arrow pointing in the wrong direction. It's not one pointing in the right direction. The left tackle thing is very real. I've seen that. I do a links roundup, obviously, every morning for BGN, and every morning I check out all of the NFC East team sites on SB Nation. And I feel like more than anything, I see a lot of discourse about Cowboys kicker situation and Cowboys backup left tackle situation, which again is very relevant because Tyron Smith he's going to miss games. It's going to happen. You can not to interrupt over under.
Oh, dude, I mean 3.5.
Right.
It's probably the over under. But so last week, I thought this was so interesting. The Cowboys had a scrimmage against the Broncos country. It's so great to be out there against America's team.
Hold on a sec. There's a headline right now. I need to get to this because it's entirely relevant to what you're saying. On milehighreport.com, free shout out for them for having Russell Wilson on their team. The headline, RJ. Russell Wilson is the quote daddy of the deep parentheses ball. I don't even want to click it and open and see what that means, but I just wanted you to know that.
Well, that's always been like the thing. Like, Russell Wilson has a sexy deep ball. Like, that's whatever. I mean, like
Just
that's
the
it's not
phrasing
quite
of
up
that
there.
is very,
I know.
it's very
Man, he.
romanced, intimate.
Um. So the
I don't
Cowboys
know.
had their scrimmage. I got to get to Tyron, but the Cowboys had their scrimmage with the Broncos, and I saw Micah Parsons and somebody else. They did jersey swaps, and it's like I think jersey swaps are awesome. Like they're cool. Like I love that for players. Well, that's what I was. No, it wasn't even the preseason. Oh, it was the preseason game. But it's like, guys, like let's relax. And you know what move I hate? So like I'm somebody who. So my dad and I, before the pandemic, we used to go to a road Cowboys game every year. And something I like to do is get a jersey of that team's most iconic player, right? Like and it's cool to get from the stadium, right? Like I got this at that stadium. Like I want that kind of like, sort of minute level of authenticity. And so what I think is weird when it comes to jersey swaps, and I think Lamar Jackson had like 8 of them his MVP year, but Russell had 2 jerseys that he gave away. So like, and he didn't even play in the one he gave that he took off. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so he had one that like he wasn't even wearing. You know what I'm saying? Like that's weird to me. Like I wouldn't want that one. I would be like, give me the one you wore. Like that's the whole point. Like the whole point is to kind of swap, from the game that we played. But anyway, so during the scrimmage against the Broncos, the Cowboys had 2 injuries that were reported by everybody on site. Tight end Ian Bunting, who they waived, and John Ridgway, the rookie defensive tackle. Nobody said a word about Tyron Smith. But late that night, this was last Thursday night, DallasCowboys.com's report on the day noted that he limped off of the practice field. I thought that was so strange that nobody highlighted that. And maybe nobody thought it was a big enough deal. I mean, you've seen a billion different practices yourself. Like sometimes something just kind of, is not a big enough attention thing. But then Mike McCarthy addressed it after the preseason game. So he's already got like an ankle thing. He's back, and so it's not a big deal. But it's like it continues to underscore how thin the ice is of, depth at the tackle position. They went into this season. This is not a joke. It's not hyperbole. Their plan at swing tackle was 2 dudes with combined 0 amount of NFL experience. How? Why? Like, how could you do that?
Just not it's a theme of the entire Cowboys offseason to what you're talking about. It's just lack of preparation, lack of. I don't know what the thought is. How does anyone inside the Cowboys like look at what they've done and be like, yeah, we're better than last year? I mean, they're like objectively not better at best. Like that's the best case scenario. Like they got worse, and I don't know how can you argue otherwise.
You can't. What I'm getting a little sick of, what I'm getting a little sick of is, and this is just like I'm just annoyed. Like no offense to anybody who says this, but like I don't know how many times I hear or see. You know what I think? I think they're trying to tank so they can get Sean Payton next year. Like, okay, we all agree. But nobody, first of all, nobody has to say it anymore. Like, we all understand that that's a thing. So, like
it's like a creative, original thought. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Like, this is, like, we're all on the same page. But my other thing is, like, why tank? Like if you want Sean Payton, why, like, you don't have to tank. Just be good. Just be yourself. And then if you decide you want him, just get him. I mean, like, I just don't understand why that is some sort of motivation. Like they would need the justification to fire McCarthy or something like that. But
it's just really dumb. You're not throwing away a year of it's Dak Prescott's championship contention window now. Like you're not throwing a year of that away. You're just not.
By the way,
doing that.
Friend of Blogging the Boys, Dak Prescott, we dropped an interview with QB1 on the Blogging the Boys podcast network this week. That was also available on the SB Nation NFL show in case anybody wants to listen to it. That was really
What's
cool.
one word you would use to describe your mental state for this podcast? Can't be what Dak said for his answer for the Cowboys season, which was focused.
His answer was focused. My answer is
one word.
Dog, because I got that dog in me. So, woof. Anyway, so that's kind of where things are at, kind of in a weird spot for the Cowboys. I mean, it's been several days since the preseason. I don't care that they lost. Nobody should care about wins or losses. But, like, I don't know how they haven't brought in anybody. They made their 5 roster cuts to get down to 85. But I don't know how they haven't brought in a tackle. I don't know how they haven't brought in another. And, like, it's not feasible. Like I hate this like question when people are people think that I'm complaining and they're like, well, what names are out there? Who would you go sign if you were in charge? There aren't names. It's mid-August. Like you don't do this now. You do it in March. So like I agree with you. There's nobody there, but like just because there are no like available options does not mean that everything's cool or we should be cool with it ourselves. The process of how they wasted it. They wasted the last 6 months.
It's too late now. You can't solve it now. That's the problem. And they had an opportunity to not have it be problem like this, and they wasted it. They squandered it. Question for you, I guess I've been thinking about, do you kind of like how the Cowboys have kind of been criticized, as opposed to them like going into the season with a lot of hype and everyone be like, oh, Cowboys, Super Bowl team, because there's teams like that. Speaking from personal experience, the Eagles, historically, the Eagles always do better when they're the team that, like, oh, they stink, they're not going to be any good this year. Like last season, obviously, they didn't go far, but even going back further to 2017, no one thought they were going to be great. All the hype was about the Cowboys because, oh, Dak and Zeke,
they were coming off. Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're going to reap. And no, the Eagles were an afterthought, and they overachieved. And historically, the Eagles are good at overachieving, and they're bad when they're in the situation they kind of are in right now, and there's a lot of hype. So my question to you is that, do you feel I know like there's a lot of things to not feel great about. I get that. So it's not like I'm asking you to like galaxy brain it, but is there any part of you that kind of maybe likes a little bit how everyone's kind of hating on the Cowboys and thinking that because of the group, because you don't like groupthink, and there's a lot of groupthink out there that the Cowboys have had this like really objectively bad offseason. And again, there's truth to that. But maybe so much to a point where like they're almost being slept on a little bit. So they're almost being so like overrated that they're underrated kind of thing.
That's the galaxy brain take, to be clear. But I don't like, I think it's groupthink to say, and I'm not accusing you of this, but like there are a lot of people who be like, oh, you know what? Like we always do well when people doubt us. Like, like I don't like that. Like that, there's
I agree with that too,
but there's no like, that's just like a subjective, that's just like a feeling for you. That's just like, it's like when people be like, oh, I have a feeling insert 6th round pick is going to be really good this year. No, you're confusing your thoughts with your wants. Those are different things. So I guess like my answer is I do like that there is this legitimate sense of apathy. I think it's silly when people say things like, what we have to do is we have to stop buying things. We have to stop going to games. Like that's not like it's impossible. It's never going to happen. But like I do like that people have kind of like wised up. I like that people are no longer falling for the smoke and mirrors. I like that people, whenever the Cowboys try to salary cap this, salary cap that, I like that people call them on that. I think that they don't recognize that their fans are smarter than or that they are as smart as they are, and that kind of leads to them putting their foot in their mouth on stuff. It's like a few years ago when they were still negotiating with Dak Prescott. I remember Stephen Jones did an interview with Mike Florio, and he said that there were all sorts of analytics out there that showed if you paid your quarterback a certain percentage of the salary cap or more, that it hindered your ability to win the Super Bowl. And I mean, like, so I like that the eye rolling is happening is maybe the best way to say it.
Analytics as in common sense, that when you spend more money on one thing, you will not have more money for other things.
Okay, last thing. We're going to do this for every team. ESPN wrote a bounce back candidate article about every single team in the NFL. They had a bounce back, obviously, candidate for every team. And so just briefly, their candidate for the Dallas Cowboys was Leighton Vander Esch. I don't know that I would consider that bouncing back. I feel like he already bounced. He played 19 combined games between 2019 and 2020. He played all 17 last year. He was solid. I mean, he was pretty good. He was not his 2018 self that obviously lit the world on fire. He'll never be that again in all likelihood. But so I think he already bounced. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that you can't bounce in the air. Like he already went down on the ground and bounced. Like he's now airborne.
I feel like these league-wide kind of breakout players / bounce back things, like just having seen them from an Eagles perspective, there's a lot of like catching up to be done from a national perspective. Like I feel like I've seen articles even as recently this year, like Dallas got a breakout candidate. It's like you kind of already did. He's already like done that. Like you can't be a breakout candidate every single year. Like at some point you actually did break out and you're just a good player. So yeah, I don't really get that one a ton, but I think that kind of just is a result of national coverage not really always having the accurate local focus. Although, did the local writers make the picks for that? Did you see?
I believe so. I believe the beat, or at least the beat writers wrote the descriptions. So maybe they didn't
make the pick.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Who would you pick then?
If I had to pick a bounce back candidate, I think you could say Tyron Smith. That would be like predicated on like thinking he would stay healthy, right? Like that. So that you're actually bouncing.
Pick someone else.
I mean, then, and like also like back sort of implies like you're returning to something legitimate.
The right answer is Michael Gallup. He's the right answer.
But no, like I guess that's a fair
Bouncing
answer.
Back
but
from injury is a fair thing.
But he played well last year. So like I'm not like I think injury's a cheat, right? To be like, oh, like so like there's something involved towards like you should be bouncing back from playing poorly. Like I think comeback player of the year should also be about players coming back from playing poorly. But I get why it goes to generally whoever like overcame.
That's I feel like it's usually the opposite. Like people argue because everyone's a bit mad that like what Phillip Rivers won it from the 1 year or most improved.
I know,
that was
but
most
like
improved, I guess. Or is
but
that
like it's just so it's like whoever's hurt that those are the only people that can win the award. Like
sure.
I mean, so it's you go back and forth. If I had to pick, maybe you could. Like bounce back is so weird. Maybe like taking the leap or whatever to your like breakout, like in that realm, I would say maybe Tyler Biadasz. You're also kind of hoping that happens, like because it's also hard to say like, well, how can Trayvon Diggs bounce back? How can Jaron Kearse bounce back? Like a lot of these players on the Cowboys like overachieved last year, so like you can't bounce back if you're at the top. And they were at the top in a lot of different. Maybe DeMarcus Lawrence. That would be my pick. He was also hurt last year, so that would be my full and final pick. Go me.
All right. Why don't we transition to the Eagles?
Can you believe those New York Jets? And they were out here. They were swinging and they were scratching and clawing. I saw one of them poke Jalen Hurts in the eye. You don't do that. You don't come to the link and attack QB1. Vince Papali's going to come at you.
This is a New York Eagles fan.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't do a Philly accent.
Yeah, it's more subtle. Yeah.
The energy was there though. That's really what matters.
It's funny though because people do that. It's like someone just doing think Philadelphia accent and it's just like a New York accent. Anyway. How do you feel, RJ? Like, are you shaking in your boots with Jalen Hurts, looking like the best quarterback in the NFL? 6 for 6, perfect passer rating.
I said on Monday Football Monday that Jalen Hurts is one of the biggest forks on the road for the NFL.
People heard that. Some people in the BGN feed, at least, because the donut was clipped in there. But yeah, say it again.
And I mean it. Like, if Jalen Hurts is, I don't even think he has to be like, like holy crap, good. Like he doesn't need like a whatever bump. Like if he's the like you'll hate this, but if he's Kirk Cousins, like that's a really good team. No, it is. Like I mean, it really truly is. I think, and it's a very very minuscule, very very small sample size. The overwhelming amount of evidence supports that this is just a mirage and a flash in the pan. But I think, and this is what I said on the SB Nation NFL show. Contextually, where we're at, you've seen what you want to see. Like understanding it's through training camp and one game of the preseason, but you've seen what you need to see at this point. Now, we've simply reached the point we've already been talking about it forever. It's got to happen in the regular season now. Like we've checked and passed all these little tiny marks. Now we have to get to the real ones to see if this is real or if it was just part of the process.
So I think you'll appreciate this because I think you can look at the process of things, right? It's not just like, because I think there's a lot of people who will just look at 6 for 6, perfect pass rating, flawless game. The Eagles offensive coordinator Shane Steichen said it was a flawless performance today at training camp. And of course, he's going to hype up his guy. But I feel like people will say that too. Like, what could you possibly complain about? And it's like, well, this is kind of nitpicking. And overall, I thought it was a stock up kind of performance from him. He did good things in terms of working the entire field, getting the ball out quickly, accurately. He made a nice throw on the run to Quez Watkins after Sua Opeta, the Eagles' starting left guard that night, had allowed some pressure on the interior in the first play of the game. But the big play that you kind of referenced there, where he took the hit from Quincy Williams, he clearly bailed the pocket early on that play. And, like, he didn't have to. He rolled right, which he's wont to do in a bad way sometimes. Like, it's kind of like his crutch. It's like things break down, roll right. Mm-hmm. And the Buccaneers had every...
Yeah, they leaned into it. Yeah,
right. They were like, yeah, we'll live with him doing that all game long. It's exactly what we want him to do. On that play, he runs, and obviously it's a penalty. Like there's no one's arguing that it's a dirty play, but like he wasn't running even for the marker. He was running for no gain. So like let's just say there's a world where Quincy Williams doesn't hit him. He goes out of bounds. It's 4th and 5. At that point, I guess he was 2 for 2 or 3 for 3. I forget. But it's 4th and 5. I'm guessing the Eagles would have gone for it because Sirianni was pretty aggressive all game long. And maybe he wants to put his offense in that situation. But let's say like they punt and then his night is over. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? That the whole like narrative vibe about that performance is different. Just and based on something that he had nothing to do with other than just getting hit from a dumb penalty by the Jets. So I just think it's kind of like things are fragile like that. And it's such a small sample size. And I'm not trying to take away credit. I'm just saying one thing.
You hate Jalen. BLG hates him. You listen to BGM radio, he hates him.
You do hear a lot of that. But I'm saying you change one thing and the whole perception could be different. So, yeah.
It's the remedial chaos theory. I can't believe you're not a Community person. You would love Community,
I
by the
watched
way.
Community.
Well, it's the remedial chaos theory, the dice in the air, the 6 different timelines.
I mean, it's been a long time, but I watched it.
It's season 3, I think.
I
That's
watched this
like
12 years ago.
If anyone listening to this is looking for something to watch, go look up. Actually, let me find out what episode this is of Community. It is season. I was right. Season 3, episode 4 of Community is one of the greatest episodes of television you will ever see in any show of all time, and it is this point. There's different timelines. I know that Marvel has their whatever different universes, whatever. But no, there's 6 different timelines, and in one of them, you're right. People are sitting here like, oh, he only went 2 for 2, and yeah, he took that hit, but whatever, blah blah. That was a super dirty hit. Maybe it's because Robert Saleh is all gas and no brakes. Oh, dude, I'm so sick of Robert Saleh. By the way, like. I'm also super sick of Dan Campbell. That's a different point, but whatever.
To take it to a larger point, RJ, because you can say I'm nitpicking about one play, and I am, but to take it to a larger point, something that is not just one play, Jalen Hurts holds on to the ball for too long. Objectively, he is the slowest time to throw in the NFL each of the last 2 years, and not like by a slim margin either, by a significant margin as well. And I think there are going to be plays where you hold on to the ball and bad things can happen, and maybe they're not always deserved. And that's kind of, some amount of bad luck if a player is just going to run into you anyway. I'm not saying Hurts deserves blame for that, but that's like the price to pay sometimes for holding onto the ball, is you're exposing yourself, as opposed to if you're getting the ball quick, typically the defense doesn't even have an opportunity to hit you. So that's the downside of that. And I think it's fair to acknowledge that that downside exists. While obviously there is upside to that ability as well. Like he had that good completion to Quez Watkins on the run when he did hold onto the ball. So there's give and take there, but we can acknowledge the negative does exist too.
Well, I think what you described is the Russell Wilson conundrum, right? And he's managed to paint the entire narrative that's like the Seahawks failing him. The Seahawks offensive line sucks. You know what I mean? Like that's
so much.
But you know what I'm saying? Like that's the problem that you're describing. And like, so if you heard what Brandon just said and you're like, what are the cons to holding onto the ball too long? Like that allows some more things to happen. No, look at average time to throw, average time, quickest releases in the NFL. Like Tom Brady's always up there every year, annually, because that's
and he's not getting hurt.
Right. And not only are you not getting hurt, but that's when the advantage is yours. I mean, it's true, obviously, that the longer plays unfold, the more unpredictable they become, but they become more unpredictable for you too. I mean, the sooner you get things out, the sooner it goes more or most according to plan, I should say. And so Jalen kind of fights that mold. And so I've always wondered that, when it comes to Tom Brady, because people be like, oh, well, he has this, he has that, whatever. I wonder if it would behoove Jalen to play with a worse offensive line, maybe having a lead offensive line is a detriment to him. You know what I'm saying? Because it
encourages him.
Yeah, it allows for
enables him. I should say.
That's a better word. Yeah, it enables this particular ability of his. It encourages him to roll right. You know what I mean? Things like that. Whereas if the pocket were breaking down, more often and he were getting hit more often,
it's a little galaxy brainy, but yeah.
It is. I mean, but it's worth talking about. You know what I mean? And maybe he would actually lean into it too much. Be like, oh, I got to roll right faster. I got to get out. I got to run, whatever. But or it would either be that, or it would encourage him to get rid of the ball sooner. And so until he does that, the Eagles are operating within limitations of that particular. That's a demerit working against him that will constantly hurt whatever's going on. And if I was AJ Brown, I would never line up on the left side. I'd be like, I'm only going to be on the right side. I'm never going to let you throw this cross body to me.
I will say, to his credit, I think he's gotten better on certain plays at getting the ball quicker. There's a higher volume of throws where the ball does come out fast, but it's kind of, I've used this term a lot, feast or famine. It's he's either getting the ball really quick, really good decision, nice job, or hold. It's never okay, holding it, reading it, throw it. Intermediate. There's nothing. It's very extreme. It's a very opposite ends of the spectrum. So I'd like to see a little bit more higher volume. I don't need him to be Tom Brady in terms of the fastest time in the NFL, but I need more than the slowest by far. I feel like that extreme is not really going to cut it long term. That has to improve and come up a bit. So we'll see.
It's the sloth from the movie. Is it Zootopia? Is that what it's called? The sloth at the bank. Anyway, well, I actually thought you had the PBR because the Eagles traded away J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. So will he be missed?
No. They got something for a player who's going to be cut by the Eagles, and also the Seahawks were going to cut Ugo Amadi, who the Eagles picked up. In part, though, because of his money situation. He had one of those things where, the rookies play a lot, then their fourth year, their contract goes up. Yeah, so they didn't want to pay all that money to him because he probably wasn't going to make the team anyway.
Does this in any way... and maybe he's not truly in jeopardy, but does this, because this is like the non-Eagles perspective, like does this cement Jalen Reagor status? Like, what was JJ Arcega-Whiteside like challenging him, or is this like an independent thing?
They had moved him to tight end, but that was dumb because like he's just not a tight end. And the Seahawks are instantly moving him back to receiver too. He didn't like even bulk up in a big way or anything. So JJ's gone. It's funny that he's on the same team as DK Metcalf now, the receiver the Eagles should have drafted at that spot but didn't. So
maybe Jalen Reagor will get traded to the Vikings at some point in the future.
It is possible that Reagor gets moved. We'll see. I think it's best for everyone involved. But why don't we get to the ESPN bounce back candidate for the Eagles?
That's what I was doing, Brandon. Jeez.
Which was James Bradbury. What's your favorite kind of berry?
Straw.
Not Bradbury.
I like if I think what's the most versatile berry, it's blue. So you can do a lot of like pastries, a lot of like smoothies, or liquefied things. Obviously, strawberry is the most like popular from a candy perspective. I don't like cherries. Blackberries are okay. A blackberry like cobbler's good. Raspberries are whatever. They're too soft. Like I don't like that about raspberries. So too squishy. But what's your favorite berry?
Is it cherry a berry?
It's not.
It sounds like berry.
It's not though.
I like a sweet cherry.
Okay. Anyway, I think this is a poor answer for the Eagles. Not that I like have a problem with James Bradbury, but like you should be bouncing back with the Eagles. Like I thought there were a lot of players on new teams here, and maybe that's like part of the bounce back. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe Jalen Reagor is the answer. Who knows? Watch him catch like an important
never
pass. That's fair.
You would be taking a leap is the way, but yeah, and I think the limit. I mean, his upside is limited because there's just 4 receivers ahead of him at least on the depth chart.
So then, do you agree with James Bradbury being the?
I think it's a fair enough pick because he was a Pro Bowler in 2020, and he did have a down year last year. And there's a lot of different factors that could go into that playing for a terrible team. But you look at like his numbers in terms of his like passer rating allowed, that jumped up in a bad way for him last year in New York. So he's at a really good training camp too. He did get banged up in today's practice on Tuesday, so we don't know the severity of that injury as the time of this recording. He finished practice on the sideline, so that seems like it's a good sign. It wasn't like he was carted off or anything, but I think it's a fair pick. I'm looking through the roster, and I don't really know who else is like bouncing. I mean, I don't believe it will happen, but could happen. I mean, you could say Brandon Graham because he's coming back from injury, but I was thinking about Fletcher Cox. Like if Fletcher Cox came out and had like I've always Pro Bowl season, but no, it's not going to happen.
Doubted.
Not buying it.
I will say, so ESPN wrote this in conjunction with PFF. I don't know who specifically wrote it, but if you read it on ESPN's website, it mentions like the partnership with PFF on this. So I thought it was funny. I don't know if you read the write-up on this or not, because no big deal. I put the notes together for this episode so everybody knows I worked harder.
That's not entirely true. I mean, I put some in there.
But anyway, I put this particular note. And so the write-up mentioned how he had a down year last year. And again, this was partly evaluated by PFF. And it said, but the good news is, or like what continued, or what did elevate his season were the ball skills. He had 4 interceptions. And I just thought, that's interesting how the ball skills are like this big pro in James Bradbury's column, but they're insignificant in Trayvon Diggs' column. Interesting. So
why don't we take a break here, RJ?
Take a break on the count of 3. Count to 3.
10, 9,
1, 2, 3. All right.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back. I have a pet peeve that I would like to share with you, Brady. It was not the way you counted down on the way to the break, though.
Do you think anyone ever named their pet peeve? Like a dog named
definitely.
Peeve?
Yeah. So then whenever somebody was like, what's your pet peeve? It's right here. You know what I mean? But no, a pet peeve of mine, and I'm sure you've seen this, when people will be like, oh, people, like when they refer to Twitter as an app, when they're like, oh yeah, this app, like people on this
the bird app. People like to say.
But people will be like people on this app. That's how they like phrase things. It's a website. It's not an app. It has an app that allows you to utilize it, but it is like primarily a website. That's the meat of what it is. When you call it an app, you're not doing the that would be like we were talking about ESPN. If I said people on the ESPN app, no, ESPN's a website. It's a company. Like it has a big old thing. Like it's you can't just like it's diminishing to call it just an app.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
We recorded last week's NFC East mixtape before Jason Wright boldly defended Carson Wentz. We will go down the Commanders rabbit hole, by the way, at some point, and speak to our friends over at Hawks Haven. That's obviously not happening today. I talked about that on the look ahead with stats, but
Yeah.
just
I would
quickly, your
point people
thoughts.
to that episode to get the like a good, because Stat said it. Well, I'm not going to rehash it here. I think he said it well. If you want kind of the definitive take on the Carson Wentz defense,
He was worked up.
I mean, yeah, it is dumb. There's a big thing in sports that I think we kind of all talk about to each other, where like it's not even just from the team perspective. It's just like this culture of fandom now, where like you can't be critical, or like if you are, you get criticized a lot. And it's just kind of lame, and it ruins the fun of it for me. It's like I don't think people take criticism the right. I think people take criticism to an extreme. They're like, you criticize the team, so you hate them, and you think they're going to go 0-17, and you think it's like, no. I'm just saying, like, there's a concern here, and maybe it won't even manifest in a big way, but it is a concern. It's just objectively a concern, or a not a good thing. I point out plenty of good things as well. So I think it kind of speaks to the culture of fandom right now, but
the cult,
and then
sure,
the cult. It's just really weak. You should be able to. I mean, Stats had a great interview, and I'm surprised you didn't bring this up on the show with Russell Wilson after the season, as we know, where he really like went after Russ, but in a totally fair way too. He didn't ask anything that was incredibly out of bounds. And then to Russ's credit too, he played game. He like, he put it right back at Stats, and that's what it should be. It doesn't have to be so personal and someone's like like you call names or be bad at their job. It's like he asked them some questions that were certainly probably tougher than other ones, but also Carson didn't seem like really like affected by it. And to Carson's credit, he answered him as well as he could have.
That's what I was gonna say, and because you rightly gave Russell credit. Again, I can't believe Stats didn't let me do that interview. I'll never forgive him for that. But Carson wasn't the one who came out and was like, this was out of line. Like we've seen players before like get mad about questions and things like that. Like, I actually think Jason Wright, like, no good came from that. None.
He made Carson look worse, I think, in that.
Agreed.
Because he makes it like you can't even defend himself.
He made Carson look bad. He made their team look unprofessional. He made their team look like they don't get it. All he did was incite the fanboys that like will ride for the team no matter what. Like, yeah, way to go, Jason. You defend. QB1, take command. Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like, but
great point by you on the episode of like, dude, you're not the expert on this. Like, you're very clearly not good at all the aspects of your job. With like the disrespect of Sean Taylor and everything, like, who are you to be like, I'm the expert, I know everything?
Dude, they and then he's over here like talking about professionalism. They botched the Super Bowl years on their logo. Like, it's.
I didn't want to do this because I don't want to like limit myself maybe from further Commanders access if that ever is like I need that for some reason. Maybe this will get back to Jason Wright somehow anyway, and this will ruin it for me. But I really, after you said that, the Sean Taylor thing specifically, I really just wanted to take a screenshot of the people or his family or whatever it was standing in front of the porta potties.
The porta potties, yeah.
And tagging him on Twitter and being like, this you? And just reply to that tweet. Nice. Just like, because bro, come on.
Bro, oh my gosh, you got a bro from BLG. Do we have any hard takeaways from Washington's preseason performance?
No, other than there seems to be some interesting.
You were very intent. This was your contribution to the notes, so let's hear it.
One of them, one of multiple. There's a headline right now on hogshaven.com titled, "It's time to end this Antonio Gibson experiment." First of all,
but really Ron said that he was going to use him like Christian McCaffrey. The 2015 Panthers were going to be the 2021 Commanders.
A New York fan who likes Washington for some reason, weighing in there. So there's actually a line from this article that says, I'd far prefer to see him utilized like Cordero Patterson was last year, which is like, okay, great. Everyone's the next Cordero Patterson. But to the point here, look, I think we mentioned didn't we mention Antonio Gibson as our most overrated player for Washington when we did that episode? I believe we did. And part of the issue is dude fumbles a lot. And that was a big concern that was raised here in this Hogs Haven article. And they really want to see rookie Brian Robinson, who apparently has been doing a good job in camp in the preseason. Like, they want him to kind of go in and be the top guy, or at least take more carries and be more of a split from a carry perspective, where Gibson kind of freeing him up a little bit more to use him as a receiver and everything. But, look, I just think the reality is that Antonio Gibson might not be that. I think he's just a guy. I think that's the reality.
It's interesting that you bring up that article, and everyone should go to hogshaven.com, read it. But it's titled "It's Time to End This Antonio Gibson Experiment." That came out today for us, Tuesday, August 16th. On August 15th, Hogshaven had an article titled "How Scott Turner Can Help Mitigate Antonio Gibson's Ball Security Issues." And like, it's possible, right? Like, you can work with players. Like, I'm not denying that. But at the end of the day, like, if he fumbles, he fumbles. Like, well, look at Daniel Jones. Look at Carson Wentz. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's, like, you can't fix some things. You can try. The more I think about it, so like back to like very quickly on the Cooper Rush thing, like as the Cowboys backup quarterback, it's amazing to me that he beat the Vikings last year. Like that's all I keep thinking about is like, wow, this dude beat the Vikings. Like he is so bad, and he beat the Vikings last year. And all I keep thinking about with the Commanders is like, wow, they actually convinced Terry McLaurin to stay. Like that is so amazing when you consider like I feel like name a positive thing you've seen emerging from there. Oh, by the way, Ron Rivera fired the defensive line coach. There's all this chatter now that Ryan Kerrigan's like that is like not the move. Like I hate when people do that. Like Cowboys fans are like Tony Romo needs to be our offensive coordinator. Sean Lee needs to be our defensive coordinator. Jason Witten needs to be tight ends coach. No, like just relax. But
players don't want to do that too. It's such a time commitment. Like they don't want to do that. They don't need to do that. They've made a ton of money. Why are they gonna like grind and like stay up till like 4 a.m? No,
because they love the team. They love the team. Go
I'm
Cowboys,
sure they love
Commanders.
the team, but not that much.
So, have you seen one positive thing emerging from Hogshaven or from Hogshaven from the Commanders as of late?
Not really. No. I mean, what would it be? John Dotson. Okay. The defense. I have heard the defenses look good in practice. I have heard that, but okay.
Well, along those lines,
that's not new.
ESPN's bounce back candidate for them is Chase Young. That's a good bounce back candidate because like he's bounced before, unlike Jalen Reagor, and obviously got hurt last year. It does seem like it's almost confirmed that he's going to be on the PUP list to start the season. He's going to miss the first 4 games, which would be games against both the Eagles and the Cowboys. And without him, they're kind of stuck. Like I hate to say like if he's like I hate to be this dramatic, but if he's on the PUP list, they're gonna get the season. Like the season's over. Like I don't think they're a playoff team or anything, but like if he is, like they're definitely like I go from like their 98% now to their 99% now. Like that, it's that significant.
Yeah, I forgot about that. We did see something about that, right? Like they're like, might not sure if he's definitely gonna be ready for week 1. Let's see who they have in their schedule. They open against the Jaguars, as we know. So okay, not the biggest deal if he misses that game. Although we know Carson Wentz doesn't necessarily always beat the Jags, as you'd like to point out. The Lions next. So another winnable game.
Dan Campbell's got the Lions. I tell you, those Lions, they could be a playoff team this year. Watch out. Woo! Biting off kneecaps. Oh, yeah.
But after those 2, Eagles, Cowboys. So if he's on the PUP list, he misses at least 4 weeks. Like, that's 2 division games in there with not like the Giants either. Like, it's a division game, but, it's probably not a big threat to win the division. It's the biggest threats for at least Washington to win the division. They have to play 2 games in there. So if he's on the PUP list, not great.
Not great. You ready to go to the Giants? Ready? You ready, Freddie?
New York football Giants. Gigantes?
Who's the most famous Giants fan?
How do you say Giants?
Gigantes. But
Gigantes.
Who's the most famous Giants fan? It's like you could think of a lot of famous Yankees fans. Like who's the most famous Giants fan? You can think of a lot of famous Knicks fans. What?
Well, there's the license plate guy, but we're not talking about like super fans, right? We're talking about
no. We're talking about like celebrities, like actors or other athletes, or like I would say the most famous Eagles fan right now is like Bryce Harper. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, or not. Mike Trout would be my answer. Sorry, Mike Trout would be my answer.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bryce Harper loves the Cowboys. How could I forget?
I'm looking here. Daniel Radcliffe comes up for some reason. Huge. This is I
love
really
to watch
list.
The Giants in between my potions lessons.
Not a lot of good answers here, man. Like
I can think of one. I can
Jackman
literally
is in there.
Oh wow.
Tracy Morgan, Busta Rhymes, Spike Lee.
The only one I can think of is Jerry Ferrara, who played Turtle in Entourage. That's the only one.
George R. Martin is in here. Lady Gaga. Like these are just like these just seem like random names to me.
Wow, Lady Gaga. That's because she wanted everybody to hold them like they do in Texas, and she's picking the Giants. Wow, not cool.
Bon Jovi's on here, but that's just not.
Wait,
even
Lady
true.
Gaga isn't? No, is Lady Gaga married to Blake Shelton?
I don't know.
I'm pretty certain.
Woods?
No, Tiger's a Raiders fan. That's very well known.
It's his caddy, Joe LaCava. Okay.
Oh yeah. He's had it. Oh no, Gwen Stefani is married to Blake Shelton. What am I thinking?
Queen Latifah's Jon Stewart. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, the reports about Daniel Jones have been rough. Monday's practice noted that I think he completed 2 passes. And again, I'm not trying to read into things, but apparently they are so banged up. The following New York Giants are all somewhat injured, and everybody's dealing with something. But Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard, Shane Lemieux, John Feliciano, who was involved in the fight, Blake Martinez, Leonard Williams. Apparently the Giants, Brandon, could not even field a third offensive line on Monday.
That's
so
tough.
Couldn't you see the narrative brewing to where Brian Dable's fast forward to some interview in March of 2023, he's like, we just never really got a chance to be healthy, and that's what I'm so excited about this year is they've been at the facility and the weight room, we're going to be completely healthy this year, and New York Giants football's back. Go Blue.
Yeah, and I'm looking at bigblueview.com right now, and I gotta say, not a lot of juice. And that's not a shot at the website. I'm just saying, in terms of storylines that are interesting, it's just there's not a lot going on there that I'm looking at. That's oh, wow, that's like the Hogshaven thing. I was like, oh, that's an interesting thing. There's some kind of argument going on about Antonio Gibson. I don't really see much of anything going on at
So they're trying to make something go on. So this leads to the bounce back candidate. So again, to recap, for the Cowboys, ESPN had Leighton Vander Esch. I didn't really agree. Sorry. James Bradbury for the Eagles. You thought that was fine. Chase Young for the Commanders. We really agreed with that one, I think. Saquon Barkley. What? What? I mean, we're still doing this. We're
I did see, I forget who it was, but I saw someone move him up in their fantasy rankings today. They announced that I'm moving Saquon up, and I'm like, okay, your loss.
I would no, I don't want no.
He should not get the benefit of the doubt at all. If Saquon has an awesome season this year, it shouldn't be well, yeah, we all should have saw that coming. No, it'd be wow, he proved everyone wrong. Good for him, but it shouldn't have been everyone was wrong for doubting him. No, everyone is very right for doubting him.
I can't think of another player like this. Not just a running back, but a player who was so so willingly overrated. Who everybody had no issue overrating. It's wild to me. It's ridiculous. I don't understand.
It usually happens, I feel at a smaller scale with different players on a team. It's just this guy's good. And a lot of it has to do with draft position or whatever.
I think it's usually a weird special teamer or safe, Daniel Sorensen. You know what I'm saying? There's a weird hive for a player.
Well, let me bring up someone who just got cut today by the Broncos. Your Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson's Denver Broncos. Travis Fulgham. Remember when he was a big thing with the Eagles? As recently as last year, people were still oh, I still believe in him, even though everyone was saying he had a bad training camp, and some people didn't want to believe that. And then even during the season, early on, when the offense was struggling, they're they got to promote Fulgham from the practice squad or whatever. And it was just because he had that one good stretch, everyone thought he was definitively good, and I bought into him for a little bit. But at a certain point, I'm oh, he's not doing well. It's time to abandon ship.
And people do that with they'll point to one random. They'll be I'm sure you might have heard this at the time, but well, he could be our Victor Cruz. You know what I mean? Something
right.
like that. It just it happened one time, whatever. But Brandon. Travis is so talented. I mean, he's one of the best receivers I've ever been able to work with, and we have so much talent here. I mean, I'm throwing to Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and Albert O and even Melvin Gordon out the backfield. And it's tough. And as I've grown and progressed in my career, I've reached the point of roster evaluation. I'm not too proud to admit that I'm maybe the third best roster evaluator in the world, and so Nathaniel and I, not Coach Hackett, we're partners. We just agreed that this was in the best interest of the Denver Broncos, and so that's what I'm here to do. Everything in the best interest of the orange and blue, baby. We in the orange. You know how? I know we got the shirts. Yeah. So Broncos country. That's right.
Do you remember? Speaking of receivers that Russell Wilson played with. The guy in the 2015 Super Bowl, the one where the Seahawks lost to the Patriots.
Jermaine Kearse, who had the crazy. Oh, don't tell me.
You know what I'm talking about. The random receiver who just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was it wasn't even it was just the second half or the first half.
4 catches for 109 yards.
Oh man,
tied for the game's leading receiver with Edelman.
Number 83, is that right? That's what I'm seeing in my head.
No, I don't think so. Maybe,
Um,
but I can't see it here.
Rick, is it Richard or like Ricardo? What's his
First name
first
is
name?
Chris
Chris.
Matthews. Remember him?
Yeah, I mean, it was wild. You're right. Like that was a weird little
He almost
pocket.
has like Super Bowl MVP if they win that game.
Yeah.
Wild. Anyway, that just made me think of Travis Fulgham. You have these receivers who just like randomly have these big moments and then do nothing.
That happened a lot with the Russell Wilson Seahawks. Like it was Jermaine Kearse and Doug Baldwin and
No,
even
some of those
Golden
plays
Tate.
are good. Doug Baldwin was a good player for a while.
I know, but like they weren't good before. I'm not saying Russell made them, but like they just kind of all
Kinda
came
did,
out of
though.
nowhere together. Like even the tight ends, like Will Disley, like it was just this like these cast offs. It was a strange sort of situation there. Last note on this, I thought was interesting. Of ESPN's bounce back candidate list. So say they obviously chose Saquon for the Giants. They chose James Bradbury for the Eagles, former New York Giant.
Wow.
They chose Will Hernandez for the Arizona Cardinals, former New York Giant, and they chose Evan Ingram for the Jacksonville Jaguars, former New York Giant. Like who thinks that the Giants had this loaded roster last year? You know what I mean? That like there's all these bounce back candidates. Like it just to me, it's a matter of like who are the most recognizable names on these rosters, and the Giants are public teams, so people know these players. That's what this. I don't want to criticize the exercise, but it kind of smells like that right now.
It's got to be pretty annoying for Giants fans that Bradbury is looking good in Philly so far. I mean, obviously, again, I think it was the right move for them long term, but there still is that short term annoyingness of this, like in this season, where if the Giants quarterbacks are not doing so hot and like Bradbury's having a good season, it's like you can be like, okay, that was the right move, but this is pretty annoying still that like any of the, because he didn't have to land in the division. In theory, the Giants could have maybe found a way to trade him for not much of a return, but like at least get him out of the East and send him like to the Chiefs in the AFC or something like that. But that's kind of annoying. It must be annoying for Washington and Dallas fans too, who are like, really, like he had to sign with the Eagles. But anyway.
I mean, it's also annoying. Like Amari Cooper, like I bet he would be awesome right now. Like he'd help this wide receiver depth issue. Lyle Collins, but yeah, that you really kind of need a tackle right now. Whatever. Okay, so forecasting to this week, the Cowboys are scrimmaging with the Chargers, and they play them on Saturday night.
Your guy,
9 p.m. kickoff for me.
Justin Herbert gonna light up that Cowboys defense in practice.
I actually, again, I've pinpointed my emotions for the Chargers, and they've landed on Brandon Staley. It has nothing to do with Justin Herbert. It never has.
It shouldn't be.
I know it. I mean, well, it doesn't. I maintain that Brandon Staley gets, if another coach has the timeout issue that he did in Week 17 last year, it's the only thing that follows them. Yeah, Week 18. It's the only thing that follows. It's the only question that gets asked for months and months and months and months. But like,
I still think that gets overblown in hindsight. That didn't impact the game.
It was incredibly consequential. Like I agree with you that you can debate the merits of it, but it was incredibly consequential.
It didn't impact the outcome at all.
I think it definitely did. I don't think the impact was a non-zero quantity, but
I mean, very little, not a lot.
Whatever. The Giants are playing the Bengals on Sunday at 6 p.m. That's on NFL Network if anybody wants to watch them nationally. The Eagles are also on NFL Network this week on Sunday early at noon Central Time.
Practicing against the Browns. A weird
long.
Start time, by the way. Yeah, 1 p.m. on a Sunday during the preseason. But yes, the Eagles I'm flying to Cleveland tomorrow, RJ, to watch the Eagles and Browns practice.
You're going to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Probably not. In Berea, Ohio.
I think it's pronounced Berea. Is it not?
So I'll be seeing Deshaun Watson, which will be weird, and the Browns go up against the Eagles. And I will say that I don't know about the Cowboys or any other team. Last year, the Eagles looked like pretty good in the joint training camp practices, and that felt like a good vibe / gauge of where the team would be in 2021. So these are big practices, is what I'm trying to say. If the Eagles
they're more important than the games. You know what I mean? So
if they look good, that's going to be a stock up for them. Opposite's true, then it's going to be like, that's a legitimate concern.
The last team we didn't talk, or their game, the Commanders are visiting the Kansas City Chiefs this week. So shout out to Pete Sweeney.
The chefs.
Nice. Okay.
Roasted.
The chef roasted it. Anything you want to say? Anything else? Anything? Last week you were like, "Oh, I liked how this little cyclone had these leaves."
It was a really nice thing.
So, do you have another nice thing? Do you have maybe a not nice thing? Like, do you as we close?
So I have a complaint. So my iPhone, I think it was last Thursday.
The one with the Nightmare Before Christmas person on the back.
Yeah. So it just stopped working in terms of like the very left side of the screen here. Like this side, or sorry, wait, this side, sorry. This
It's a
side of the
beautiful
screen.
photo. Did you take that photo? The background?
What do you think? Do you think that's a background or do you think I took that?
I think you took that.
I took
believe
that. Isn't that a really nice picture? I took
Yeah,
that in Portland, City of Roses, in 2019.
Oh,
Um,
and I've been to what you're talking about, the
Garden.
Yep, the
There's
Rose
like
Garden.
I think it's called. There's like a. I don't know if it's that part of it, but there's like a Japanese garden nearby
Yep,
that you have to
I've
pay
been
to
there.
get into. It's really cool. Yeah, it's a really. It smells. I mean, makes sense. There's a bunch of roses, but I guess I didn't like think about that when I was going there. I didn't like go into that area thinking like, oh, it's gonna smell good here. And I was like, oh, it smells so nice with all the roses, and it's really pretty. But yeah, so that's
Okay, so
really annoying.
The left side of your screen doesn't work.
Like, yeah, so I can't go back on like a text. You know how you have like the arrow at the top of your screen up here? Like I can't, and like the one doesn't work in my keyboard. Like the
You're
one
saying
kind of works.
the leftmost like vertical like 10%
Yes.
of your phone kind of doesn't work, right?
Yeah, and like I can't type Q right now. Like I just can't do it. Like it doesn't work. I mean, obviously, if there's a certain mode where I can flip my phone to what's that land? This is landscape, right? Yeah, the long way. Then I can, but like not all apps have that, so it's really annoying.
Get an
And so
iPad. There we go.
I'm not getting an iPad. I placed an order for a new iPhone, but I'm not. I'm waiting for it still.
That's
They said
one of
it was
those.
going to be ready, and now it's not ready. So
That's one of those things where like it's like when you have like a Band-Aid on your thumb or something, you know what I mean? You're like, I never realized like how consequential my thumb was to my life. The left side of your phone, I'm sure you're now like, man, this like not having this is this massive inconvenience.
it's like obviously it's a first world problem by every standard, but it does make my job harder, which is annoying. And it's not to the point where like I need a new phone like right this instant. Like I'm trying to make the best of it, but like I need it sooner than later. It's just driving me crazy.
Okay, that was a good one thing. It was a bad, like it was a complaint, so negative. I'll finish on a strong note. I actually made this my Facebook status. I hadn't done a Facebook status in a very long
What are you
time.
talking about? Who's using Facebook still?
Well, because it was more of like a familial thing. Like I wanted like my family to see it.
The company isn't even called Facebook anymore.
So whatever. So I wanted, like, again, it was about my son. So I wanted to, I wanted my family and whatever, aunts and uncles and stuff to see it. And it came across more sweet than I meant it, to be fair, or to be frank. But so I was feeding him, and he's eating solid foods now, but it's like baby food, right? And so he, all the baby foods are flavored and they're colored. And I think like, why some of them are orange. And I'm like, why are you doing this, baby food people? Like, we have to wear clothes. He's, you know what I mean? Like, he's getting us dirty. Like, can't you like put coloring in them? And I don't know if that's bad or whatever. But anyway, so I was feeding him peas. So it's they were like green, and so I was feeding him, and then he finished it, and I was so proud of him. But I thought about that, like while I was there with him, I thought like, man, I've been proud of a lot of things in my life, and a lot of people, right? Like I've been proud of friends or family for different accomplishments. And again, it was somewhat in a joking way, but I was like, I've never felt pride like this before. Like for my son eating peas, it was a cool thing. But then, like again, I posted it on my Facebook status, and all of these people were like, oh, and I was like, respect, like I'll take it, but I didn't totally mean it as authentically as you might think I did. I was just kind of fishing for laughs. So, like I wanted people to be like, ha, peas, what a weirdo or something. I don't know, but I don't like peas. Do you? Are you a pea liker?
I'm not even gonna. So, pride being an unfamiliar feeling for a Cowboys fan. That's what you're saying. There you go.
Nice. Wow. Shout out to French onion soup, iPads, peas.
Snow peas can be good, like when just plucked fresh off of the garden. You ever do that?
I don't know what any of the words you said mean.
Back when I was little, you can go to like Home Depot or whatever and get there's the packets there for the seeds. So back when I was little, planted some of those in my backyard, and they grew up and just plucked them right off of there, like right from the ground, and popped them in my mouth. Pretty good.
Good for you. So you're a pea liker. Shout out again to French onion soup, iPads, peas, and anything else you want to give a shout out to as we close.
You have to say 3 words, random words.
Oh, I like this. Sheep. Quiz, because you couldn't do a Q. So I'm trying to pick like left side of the things. Like you probably can't get the S either. And xylophone, not a Z, but it sounds like it.